50 theories about the final war in One Piece. There are still several years to go before that famous final war, but we all have our own ideas and theories in our heads. How it might happen, when it could start, and how it could all end. Along the way, there are tons of details that could end up being absolutely crucial. That's why I've decided to bring you 50 theories about the final war, making this the most complete video on the topic so far. Just a quick note, this video obviously took a lot of work to put together, so I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to help me reach 5,000 subscribers and achieve my dream. Alright, enough talking, let's get into the video. 1. They win the final war and then go for the One Piece. Alright, picture this. The Straw Hats and their massive alliance take down the world government in an all-out final war. It's chaos, it's legendary, it shakes the entire planet, and after all the dust settles, after Imu's mysterious throne is shattered and the celestial dragons are history, there's this eerie silence. Everyone expects Luffy to go straight for the One Piece, but he hasn't yet. Why? Because maybe the war had to come first. See, what if the final war isn't just about freedom, it's about clearing the path to reach the One Piece properly. Maybe the world government has always been guarding the entrance to Laugh Tale or blocking access to the last Poneglyph. They're not just the villains of the world, they're also the final obstacle between Luffy and that legendary treasure. And after the victory, there's this huge moment. The seas are united, ancient secrets are out, people are free. Now finally, Luffy can go to the last island not because he wants to, but because he has to. The world is watching, the adventure isn't over, it's just changed. Going to the One Piece now means discovering the true history and doing something with it. Maybe it's not just a treasure, maybe it's a final choice, a gift from Joy Boy. So yeah, this theory flips the usual order. It's not find the treasure then fight the bosses. It's defeat the evil then uncover the truth. It gives the final war weight, makes it feel like the price to pay before the real ending, the discovery of One Piece itself. 2. They fight the final war to save the world, but give up the One Piece now this one. Painful, tragic, but beautiful in its own way. Imagine Luffy and the crew almost reaching Laugh Tale. They're right there, at the edge of the world, the One Piece within reach. But then, the sky darkens. A global threat looms. Maybe a weapon, maybe a force of nature set off by the world government, maybe even something like a dying Zunisha or the Red Line crumbling. The world's literally falling apart, and in that moment, the Straw Hats make a choice. They turn away from the One Piece to save everyone else. Because here's the thing, this isn't about greed or fame. Luffy's never been that kind of pirate. He wants freedom, he wants his friends safe, and he wants to laugh at the end. If claiming the One Piece means dooming the world, or letting the world government win by doing nothing, then Luffy would totally say, screw the treasure, let's go save people. Imagine how emotional that would be. The treasure is right there, and yet they sail away from it. Maybe Robin cries, maybe even Usopp hesitates, but they all follow Luffy because they've already found something greater than gold, each other, and the will to fight for the world. And maybe, just maybe, the One Piece was never meant to be taken anyway. Maybe it's a metaphor, or maybe Joy Boy left it there as a reward only for those who could walk away when the world needed them most. Heartbreaking? Absolutely. But if Oda wanted to hit us in the feels while still giving a legendary ending, this route would hurt in the best way. 3. They reach the One Piece before the final war. Okay, now flip the script again. What if they actually find the One Piece before the final war even starts? Imagine this. The Straw Hats do it. They beat the last roadblock, follow the Poneglyphs, and reach Laugh Tale. They discover the One Piece. And it's not just gold or weapons, it's the truth. The full story of the Void Century, of Joy Boy, of the Ancient Kingdom. A message from the past meant for the one who can unite the world. And here's where it gets spicy. The moment Luffy and Co learn the truth, they become a threat on a whole different level. Not because of their strength, but because of what they now know. The world government freaks the hell out. Imu and the Gorosei activate Plan Omega. Buster calls, ancient weapons, clones. Everything gets thrown into motion, not to stop Luffy from becoming Pirate King, but to stop the world from hearing the truth. So the final war begins not over a throne, but over knowledge. The One Piece doesn't end the story, it triggers the end game. The Straw Hats return from Laugh Tale with proof of the world's biggest lie. And now, they're not just pirates, they're revolutionaries, truth tellers, the spark that lights the final fire. It's like finding the answer to a riddle, and then realizing you still have to survive the monster guarding it. It's tense, it's massive, and it gives Laugh Tale real narrative weight, not as a destination, but as the catalyst. 4. Imu is the final villain. Let's be real, Imu gives off major final boss energy. Mysterious, silent, shadowy ruler who sits on the supposed empty throne? Yeah, that's textbook "I'm actually the god of this world" vibes. If Imu ends up being the final villain, it makes perfect sense. He, or they, has likely been pulling strings behind the world government for centuries. Not just hiding, but actively erasing history, deciding which kingdoms get wiped out, hi Lulusia, and maintaining control through fear and misinformation. Now imagine the final war. Luffy and Co have torn through the Marines, the Celestial Dragons are powerless, the Gorosei are panicking, and then Imu steps out of the shadows, and what we thought was a political conflict becomes something mythical. Imu isn't just powerful, maybe he's immortal, maybe he was around during the Void Century, maybe he's Joy Boy's rival, maybe he's the reason the Ancient Kingdom fell. And of course, Luffy doesn't care who he is, he just wants to punch him in the face. This would be epic because it makes the world government not just corrupt, but cosmically evil. Imu could be the embodiment of control, of stagnation, the anti-Luffy. No freedom, no laughter, no adventure, just eternal order. The fight between Luffy and Imu wouldn't just be physical, it'd be ideological, the spirit of adventure versus the fear of change. And when Luffy wins, because come on, you know he will, it'd be the ultimate victory, not just for him, but for the world. 5. Blackbeard is the final villain. Okay, now this is the fan favorite pick, and for damn good reason. Blackbeard has been Luffy's foil since day one. Where Luffy seeks freedom, Teach chases power. Where Luffy values his crew, Teach treats people like tools. And while Luffy's joy is infectious, Blackbeard's presence is corruptive. He's what Luffy could have been if he went down the wrong path. So what if Teach isn't just a villain? What if he's the last one? This theory has juice. Maybe Luffy defeats the world government, the truth gets revealed, the seas are free, and then Blackbeard shows up. Maybe he's stolen another ancient weapon, maybe he's found a way to merge even more devil fruits, or maybe he waited till the world was weakened, then strikes. Final boss Blackbeard would be wild. Not only is he ridiculously strong, he's unpredictable, cunning, nasty. He's not fighting for ideals, he's fighting to take everything. Pirate King, ruler of the world, godlike power, and that makes him terrifying. And narratively, it's perfect. The world is free, but now it has to stay free. Teach becomes the final test, not of strength, but of will. Luffy has to fight the one person who represents the complete opposite of what the Straw Hats believe in. And when Luffy beats him, oh man, it won't just be a win for the crew, it'll be a win for every dreamer, every freedom lover, every misfit in the One Piece world. 6. They lose the final war and the world government wins. Now this would be dark. We're so used to thinking Luffy's crew will win, beat the odds, and sail into the sunset. But what if they don't? What if the final war ends in defeat? Picture it. The Straw Hats give it everything they've got. The revolutionaries rise, kingdoms rebel, pirates unite, but the world government, with Imu at the helm, and who knows what ancient weapons or secret powers, still wins. Maybe they've cloned Joy Boy, maybe they unlock a new god-level devil fruit, or maybe they just fight dirtier than anyone else and pull out a last-second nuke from Lulusia 2.0. Now imagine what this does to the world. Luffy captured or presumed dead. Robin in chains again. Revolutionary Army destroyed. And the message is clear. No one escapes the system. That ending would hit like Marineford times 10. And honestly, it'd be legendary because it flips everything. It'd echo stories like Star Wars or Attack on Titan, where the first ending is pain, so that the real freedom comes later. Maybe a time skip follows. Maybe the next generation, like Uta, Momo, or even the kids of the Straw Hats, take the fight back. Or maybe the world gets so broken that something new is born from the ashes. It's painful, it's brutal, but damn, it'd make the eventual comeback unforgettable. 7. They break the red line and unite all seas. Now this one? Straight out of Endgame material. Imagine the war reaches its peak, and instead of just taking out the Celestial Dragons or toppling Marie Joie, the Straw Hats go full apocalypse mode. They destroy the freaking red line. Why? Well, think about it. The red line splits the entire world. It keeps people divided. It makes travel a nightmare. And it's literally the reason why the 4 seas, East Blue, West Blue, North Blue, South Blue, can't mix freely. It's the foundation of the current world order. So breaking the red line isn't just about geography. It's about freedom. Maybe it happens with Uranus, the last ancient weapon. Or maybe Luffy awakens some crazy Gear 6 ability and punches a hole through it. Because of course he would. Either way, the seas flood into one another, Reverse Mountain crumbles, Fishman Island gets freed from the bottom of the ocean, and boom, the Grand Line is gone. Suddenly it's one sea, no borders, no limits, just freedom. This moment would be so symbolic. It's Joy Boy's dream realized. It's the ancient kingdom's will coming back to life. And narratively, it feels like the world finally resetting, like we're going back to the beginning, but better. Plus, imagine the reactions. Islands shifting, entire climates changing, sea kings everywhere, pandemonium, and through it all, Luffy standing there, laughing, going, "This is what I wanted." Insane, epic, pure One Piece. 8. The One Piece is actually an ancient weapon meant for the final war. Let's go full sci-fi mode with this one. What if the One Piece, yes, the treasure that's been hyped for over 25 years, isn't just symbolic or comedic or even knowledge, but a damn weapon? An ancient weapon, to be exact. Maybe it's Uranus, the missing one, or maybe it's something beyond the 3 we know. Either way, the idea is that Joy Boy didn't just leave behind a message or a laugh. He left behind the means to fight back. Imagine the Straw Hats reaching Laugh Tale, uncovering the One Piece, and finding a massive ship, a sentient being, or a planet-destroying device, something that only Luffy can activate. Not because he's chosen, but because of who he is, his will, his fruit, his joy. Now picture the world government freaking out. They found it, they have it. Suddenly the Straw Hats aren't just rebels, they're gods of war. But here's the twist, maybe using it has consequences. Maybe it risks destroying entire islands. Maybe it echoes the mistakes of the Void Century. So now it's not just, we have the weapon, it's, should we use it? This adds a whole new layer to the final arc. Strategy, morality, sacrifice. If Luffy does it, it's not for power, it's to protect others. If Teach gets it, game over. Turning the One Piece into a weapon would silence everyone who ever doubted its worth and make the final war a cosmic level showdown. 9. Luffy dies pain. Absolute pain, but also kind of fitting. Luffy dying at the end of One Piece would break every heart across the fandom, but it could also be the most perfect way to end his story. Why? Because Luffy's not the kind of guy who grows old. He's a force of nature. He lives fast, laughs loud, and runs headfirst into danger. He's literally burning his life away with Gear 2nd. He's made deals with death. Remember Ivankov saving him? And Gear 5th. That's not just cartoon physics. It's reality breaking. It's Joy Boy's will in motion. That can't last forever. So what if Luffy gives everything in the final war, he burns out saving the world, he smiles in his last moment, and he dies with a laugh? Heartbreaking? Hell yes, but beautiful too, because that's what the Pirate King should be. Someone who gives everything for freedom, even his life. Imagine the world afterward. Statues of Luffy, kids playing pirate with straw hats. Former enemies telling stories about the man who smiled at the end, and maybe, just maybe, he leaves behind something bigger than himself, a legacy, a world where no kid gets crushed by a celestial dragon, a world where you can dream. It's sad, but it's real, and if done right, it would be the single most emotional ending in anime history. 10. Nobody dies, not even the villains. Now for the polar opposite of the last theory. What if no one dies in the final war? Not a single Straw Hat, not a single villain. Everyone makes it out alive somehow. Sounds weird, right? But think about Oda. He's been surprisingly kind to his characters. Yeah, Ace died. Yeah, Whitebeard too, but for a war as massive as Marineford, most people walked away. So what if the final war goes all out, but ends with redemption, not death? Maybe Luffy defeats Imu but refuses to kill. Maybe Akainu sees the truth and backs down. Maybe even Blackbeard gets spared. Not forgiven, but left alive. And the Straw Hats, they survive. All of them. Because their bond, their friendship, their growth, it's too strong. It'd be controversial, sure. People want stakes. People want blood. But imagine the message. You don't have to die to change the world. You can win without revenge. You can fight for something without becoming a monster. In a story all about inherited will and changing the future, that might actually hit harder than any death ever could. It'd be risky, but it'd be pure One Piece. 11. There will be clones of Ace, Whitebeard, Roger, or someone like that, okay? This one is pure sci-fi insanity. humanity, and I love it. You know how Egghead has introduced some next level tech? Clones, seraphim, artificial devil fruits, even memory transfer? Now imagine the world government taking it a step further and pulling a Jurassic Park, but with pirate legends. Clones of Ace, of Whitebeard, of Roger, yeah, the ultimate fan service and nightmare fuel. Let's be real, the government would totally do it. They've already got King's Lunarian DNA, they've got Vegapunk's legacy tech, and they're desperate. So imagine they create a squad of clone warriors based on legendary pirates. Maybe soulless, maybe modified. Ace's fire, Whitebeard's strength, Roger's Conqueror's haki, all recreated in artificial bodies with zero morals. Cold, obedient, devastating. Now picture Luffy facing a fake Ace on the battlefield. A fake Ace, emotionally brutal. It'd shake him to the core. Maybe the clone even remembers pieces of Ace's past thanks to memory programming. Maybe Sabo sees it and loses it. Maybe Jinbei hesitates because Whitebeard's clone walks toward him with that same fatherly aura. This twist would be brutal. It'd show how low the world government will go. It'd force the Straw Hats and us to face the legacy of death in the most twisted way possible. And thematically, it's a perfect contrast. The Straw Hats fight with heart. The clones fight with code. It's will versus imitation. And of course, it'd give Oda a way to draw Roger in combat again. Let's not pretend he wouldn't love that. 12th, a Straw Hat will die now. This one? Painful as hell. Nobody wants it, but everybody's scared it might happen. Losing a Straw Hat in the final war would be the biggest emotional nuke Oda could drop, and narratively it makes sense. The stakes are higher than ever. If the crew walks out of the ultimate world-ending battle with 0 casualties, it might feel cheap to some fans. So who could it be? Usopp, the coward turned hero, going out in a blaze of glory. Zoro, fulfilling a promise by sacrificing himself for Luffy one last time. Sanji, taking the blow meant for someone else with a final smile. Robin, the one with the key to the truth, dying to pass it on. It'd wreck us. But here's why it would be powerful, because the Straw Hats are a family, and when families lose someone, it changes them forever, but it also proves how strong their bond is. And maybe, just maybe, it's what sparks the final push. Like Ace's death at Marineford made Luffy awaken. Maybe a Straw Hat sacrifice unlocks something greater. Not just a new power-up, but a new understanding of what they're fighting for. It'd be heartbreaking, but unforgettable. 13. Luffy will kill the final villain, no matter who it is. Now this is wild because Luffy doesn't kill. It's one of his defining traits. He beats the crap out of his enemies, breaks their pride, tears down their empires, but he never takes their life. So imagine what would push Luffy to finally cross that line. Maybe it's Emu, maybe it's Blackbeard, maybe it's someone new, but whoever it is, they're so dangerous, so monstrous, that Luffy knows if they live, the world stays broken. Now think about that moment. Luffy, battered, bleeding, standing over his defeated enemy. They've been stripped of their powers, exposed to the world, and still they laugh. They promise they'll rise again, and Luffy just stares. No. He says, "Not this time," and he does it. This would be huge because it's a complete break from Luffy's norm, but also a moment of maturity. He's not doing it out of hate. He's doing it because he finally understands. Some threats can't be left alive, not if the next generation is gonna have peace. It'd be controversial, emotional, and it would redefine who Luffy is. Not a murderer, not a hero, but a man who makes the hardest choice just once. And after that, he walks away from being Pirate King because he knows that's the price. Oof, that one hurts. 14. Dragon will die. This one's got classic storytelling energy. Luffy's dad, Dragon, the most wanted man in the world, leader of the Revolutionary Army. He's been in the shadows for ages, but if he steps out in the final war fully active, it feels like a death flag gets planted immediately. Dragon dying would serve a massive emotional and narrative purpose. First, it gives Luffy a deeper personal stake in the war. He's never been super close to Dragon, but imagine them finally meeting, fighting side by side, and then losing him. Second, it passes the Revolutionary Flame to Sabo. Sabo's already being groomed as the next leader. Dragon dying would make that torch official. Third, it raises the stakes. The final war needs heavy losses to feel real, and Dragon's death would hit both the revolutionary side and the Straw Hats. Now, how would he die? Sacrifice? Fighting Emu? Holding off a Buster Call so the others can escape? Or maybe he gets betrayed, and it's even worse. But here's the twist. Dragon dying isn't just a tragedy, it's also a symbol that even the strongest rebel can fall, but his will lives on in Luffy, in Sabo, in the New World. Tragic, inevitable, iconic. 15. The Revolutionary Army will finally act in the final war. This one feels almost guaranteed, but still super hype. The Revolutionary Army has been in the background for ages, building forces, gathering intel, exposing corruption, but in the final war, no more hiding. They show up and they go off. Imagine armies of revolutionaries from across the world rising up at once, leaders from every blue, former slaves, fallen kings, angry scholars, CP agents who defect, led by Dragon, Sabo, Ivankov, Karasu, Morley, all the weirdos. Their mission, take out the Celestial Dragons, burn Marijois to the ground, reveal the truth. And here's the best part, this war isn't just about pirates anymore, it's about everyone. It's global, the people versus the system. And the revolutionaries are the spark. They fight the Gorosei, they hold off Saturn, they clash with CP0, and in the chaos, they make sure the truth gets out. For years, they've prepared in silence. Now, they scream, and when they do, the whole world watches. 16th, Impelled Down will be liberated during the final war, unleashing total chaos. Alright, buckle up, because this one would be pure madness. Imagine the final war reaching such insane levels of global chaos that one of the most heavily fortified places in the world, Impelled Down, gets cracked wide open. But this time, it's not just Luffy busting in to save Ace. This time, it's a full-on revolutionary prison break, and the goal is to free the worst of the worst. Prisoners that have been buried in level 6 for decades. Monsters that make Doflamingo look like a choir boy. Maybe even people from the Void Century who've somehow survived. Who knows? And once the gates are down, all hell breaks loose. It'd be absolute narrative genius because it turns the final war into a three-way brawl. The Straw Hat Alliance, the world government, and now this wildcard horde of unleashed nightmares. Some might side with Luffy, some might side with Teach, some might just want to watch the world burn. We could see the return of Bon Clay, Daz Bones, and maybe even Enel shows up from somewhere with an army of sky people like, what the hell did I miss? It adds unpredictability, it adds chaos, it adds tension, because suddenly the battlefield isn't just about good versus evil, it's about trying to control the uncontrollable. And narratively, it gives us closure. Impelled Down is one of the darkest places in the One Piece world. Freeing it is symbolic, it means breaking the system completely. It means no more torture, no more silence. Even the prisoners have a role to play in the new world. 17th, Kaido and Big Mom return for the final war. Oh boy, this would be insane. Everyone thought Kaido and Big Mom were done after Wano, right? Smashed by Luffy and Law Kid, dropped into a magma pit like yesterday's leftovers. But come on, this is One Piece. Nobody that important dies off screen. So what if they come back? Maybe Vegapunk's tech revives them. Maybe they fuse together into some hideous hybrid magma monster. Terrifying. Or maybe Imu had them extracted from the earth, cloned them, enhanced them, and now they're back for revenge. Imagine it, the final war's at full tilt and suddenly the ground shakes. A massive shadow rises from the sea. It's Kaido, holding his Kanabo, laughing, "Miss me?" Then Big Mom floats in on a fire cloud, screaming for her children, lightning everywhere. This wouldn't just be fan service, it'd be legitimately horrifying. These two were Yonko for a reason. Their return would up the stakes immediately, and maybe they don't even fight for the same side. Maybe Kaido wants to finish his war dream. Maybe Big Mom just wants to destroy the government for screwing with her lineage. Or maybe they just want revenge on Luffy. Either way, they are wild cards, and their return would set the battlefield on fire. Because if they're back, nobody's safe, not even Teach. 18. All the ancient weapons will be used in the final war. Let's go big. Let's go biblical. We've spent decades hearing about the ancient weapons, Pluton, Poseidon, Uranus, but barely seen them in action. The final war is where that changes. All of them, fully unleashed. Poseidon, we already know it's Shirahoshi, so imagine her commanding the Sea Kings in a war. Massive serpents tearing through battleships, swallowing fleets whole. Pluton, it's said to be a battleship that can destroy islands. If it's real, and Wano is hiding it, then we're talking Death Star level destruction. And it's in Luffy's hands. Then there's Uranus, the big mystery. Maybe it's tied to the sky, or Imu, or Enel. hell. Maybe it's a weapon that controls weather or gravity itself. Whatever it is, once it's awakened, it's gonna change everything. Now, imagine all three activated at once. A giant storm cloud covering the Earth, Sea Kings rising from the depths, Pluton firing from the shoreline. The world itself crumbles under the sheer power of these ancient beasts. It's not a war anymore. It's the end of an era. And who uses them? That's the key. If Luffy uses them, it's out of necessity to protect. If Imu does, it's domination. If Blackbeard gets his hands on one, good luck. This theory turns the final battle into a full-scale mythological apocalypse, and we're so here for it. 19. The final war will make Marineford look cute. You remember how epic Marineford was, right? It felt like the biggest war in anime at the time. Whitebeard, admirals, warlords, Luffy, Ace, just absolute chaos. But compared to what's coming, Marineford is just the trailer. The final war will be on a planetary scale. Pirate alliances, revolutionary armies, celestial dragon war machines, ancient weapons, sea kings, seraphim, clones, you name it. We're talking multiple fronts, sky, sea, and land, maybe even underwater battles with fishmen and sea kings, Zoro dueling Mihawk, Akainu clashing with Dragon, Shanks facing Blackbeard, hundreds of matchups, all legendary. And it's not just scale, it's emotion. Every fight will mean something. Every victory will cost. Every loss will shake us. Oda will break us, and we'll love him for it. This is the moment One Piece has been building to for 25 plus years. And when it happens, Marineford won't even be in the top 5 anymore. 20. Shanks participates and dies. This one will shatter the fandom. Shanks has always been the mysterious, cool, older brother of the pirate world. Always watching, always planning. So when he finally steps in during the final war, it's going to feel monumental, like the gods themselves have entered the battlefield. But what if he dies? Not just dies, goes out like a legend, maybe protecting Luffy, maybe fighting Blackbeard, maybe holding off Imu long enough for the truth to get out. His death would be devastating, but also meaningful, because he's not just a fighter, he's a symbol of inherited will, of Roger's legacy, of hope. And maybe that's the point. Shanks dying is the final push Luffy needs. It's the passing of the torch, the last anchor of the old era falling, so the new one can truly begin. Painful, poetic, perfect. 21. Blackbeard shows up after the fall of the world government and is the real final boss. Now this is straight up genius level villainy. Everyone's locked into the idea that Blackbeard is one of the big bads, sure. But what if he's not the main threat during the war, but shows up after it? Imagine this. Luffy, the revolutionaries, and their allies actually win. The world government is in ruins. Mary Joie is dust. Imu is gone or missing. Everyone's celebrating. The world is starting to heal. And then a massive shadow rises over the horizon. It's Teach. He's been waiting. While everyone else was busy bleeding in battle and tearing the world apart, Blackbeard was just watching, waiting for the perfect time to move in. Maybe he let the war play out knowing it would leave everyone weak. Maybe he already stole something insane, like Uranus, or Imu's immortality secret, and now that the throne is empty, he wants it. Cue the real final arc, the last clash, Luffy versus Blackbeard. The free world versus the embodiment of chaos. This version of Teach isn't just a pirate, he's a tyrant in the making. He doesn't believe in freedom, he believes in control, disguised as freedom. Anyone can rule, he says. So why not me? It'd be poetic. The fake D versus the true D. The man who betrayed everything versus the man who lived for his friends. This would be the real final test of Luffy's ideals. And when he wins, that's when he really becomes Pirate King. Not by claiming a treasure, but by stopping the worst possible future. 22. The government creates a Joy Boy clone using the Straw Hat's DNA. Alright, this one's straight up mad scientist horror show material. We know the world government has been guarding that massive Straw Hat in Marie Joie for something, right? And we also know they're doing freaky things with DNA, cloning, and celestial secrets. So what if, just what if, they create a Joy Boy clone using ancient bloodline tech and the Straw Hat's DNA? They want to control Joy Boy's power, not stop him, own him. Imagine they take samples from Luffy during a capture, or maybe they've been storing bloodlines for centuries. Then they combine it with that Straw Hat relic and boom, Project Joy Boy.X is born. What comes out? A perfect looking clone. Maybe he even has Gear 5. Maybe he thinks he's Luffy, but he's not. He's a weapon, cold, empty, everything the real Joy Boy wasn't. Now here's the twist. This clone is sent into the battlefield to fight Luffy, or maybe even the people of the world. He becomes a symbol of fear. The message? This is Joy Boy when he serves us. But that's where the real Luffy draws the line. Imagine the final clash. Luffy versus Joy Boy, past versus future, heart versus programming. And when Luffy wins, it proves once and for all that being Joy Boy isn't about power or blood, it's about spirit. Chills. 23. The Lulusia weapon destroys part of Luffy's alliance. This one's pure devastation. We saw what the Lulusia weapon can do. It erased a country from existence. No buildup, no escape, just gone. So now the question is, what happens when that power gets aimed at Luffy's own people? Imagine this. The final war is heating up. The alliance is split across different fronts. Revolutionaries on one side, pirate fleets on another, maybe the fishmen fighting near Red Line. And suddenly, boom, the sky changes. That same black cloud, the same insane light, and then one of their territories, maybe Kamabaka Kingdom, or one of the revolutionary bases is completely wiped off the map. No warning, no defense, and the world government laughs. The horror hits hard. These aren't just random islands anymore. These are people we know, characters we love. Gone. It'd shake Luffy. It'd make Dragon go full wrath mode. It might even break someone like Sabo for a while. Narratively, it does two things. It reminds us the government is still terrifying, even in its last breath. It raises the emotional stakes to 1000. After that, the Alliance doesn't just want justice. They want revenge. And the viewers? We're all in. 24. A totally new villain appears. Someone we've never seen before. You know how Naruto introduced Kagaya out of nowhere at the end? What if Oda pulls a similar move but actually nails it? Imagine the final war is in full swing. Imu has fallen, Teach is on the run, and just when we think the story's wrapping up, something ancient awakens. Something older than the Void Century. A being, a will, a race, something completely new. Maybe it's tied to the D lineage. Maybe it's the original enemy of Joy Boy. Or maybe it's a celestial godlike figure that's been sleeping beneath Marie-Joie this entire time. This enemy isn't political. It's not about control. It's about cosmic balance. And the fact that the world has changed too much, has gone too far toward freedom, means it must be reset. And suddenly the Straw Hats aren't just pirates anymore. They're defenders of the new age. Luffy becomes a literal guardian of humanity's future. It'd be bold, risky, but if anyone can make a final surprise boss work, it's Oda. And you know he'd go full mythology with it. 25th Marie-Joie is destroyed. Oh yeah, this one's gonna be beautifully satisfying. The celestial dragons, the Gorosei, the thrones, the slavery, the secrets, it all comes crashing down, literally. Marie-Joie, the most disgusting symbol of inequality and oppression in the world, gets obliterated. Maybe by Pluton, maybe by Shirahoshi commanding Sea Kings, maybe Dragon sacrifices himself and brings the whole thing down in one last act of rebellion. Either way, it's gone. Flattened. No more Holy Land, no more throne, just rubble. The people of the world cheer, former slaves cry, kings fall to their knees. It's the end of an era, the real start of a new world. And you just know the soundtrack during that scene is gonna go nuts. 26. Luffy gets captured. Oh man, this would flip everything. Imagine the unthinkable. Luffy, our sunshine, our future pirate king, the man who broke into Eni's lobby, Marineford, and impelled down, gets captured in the final war. How? Maybe it's a desperate act. Maybe the world government unleashes a trap while he's weakened from fighting Imu or Blackbeard. Maybe it's a betrayal, or maybe it's strategic. They know they can't kill him, but if they lock him away, they can kill his legacy. And the world watches. Suddenly, everything shifts. The Straw Hats are in panic mode. Sabo and Dragon are going berserk. The Revolutionary Army, furious. The people, screaming. Because capturing Luffy isn't just about him, it's about hope. This would echo the Ace storyline, but this time, it's way worse. Luffy's the leader, the icon, the symbol of freedom. His imprisonment would break the morale of the Alliance, or ignite a rescue mission so massive it puts Marineford to shame. Maybe they put him in a new Impel Down. Maybe they chain him with Seastone tech developed by Vegapunk. But you know what's coming. The Great Straw Hat Break-In. Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei, and the rest tearing through everything. Usopp crying but fighting. Robin tracking ancient paths to get there. And at the end, Luffy smiling in chains. Sorry I made you wait. Boom. Hype. Tears. War. 27, Robin gets captured. This one hurts on a different level. Robin's always been the target. Since she was a child, the world has wanted her dead or imprisoned because of what she knows. And in the final war, that danger is multiplied 1,000 times. If Robin gets captured, it's not just about revenge or leverage. It's about erasing the truth. She's the only one who can read the poneglyphs. She's the only link to the Void Century that matters. So imagine this. During a chaotic battle, CP0 swoops in and vanishes with her. Maybe Saturn himself captures her. Maybe she sacrifices herself to buy time for the others. Either way, she's gone. The crew is devastated. Luffy's furious. Sanji's in full rage mode. Frankie's ready to build a missile, and the world watches in horror, knowing that if Robin disappears, so does the truth. But here's the twist. Robin, she's not a damsel, she's deadly. She doesn't just sit in a cell and cry. She outsmarts her captors. She reads secret files. She sends hidden messages. She prepares the final bombshell to be delivered to the world, even if it's with her last breath. A Robin rescue arc in the final war wouldn't just be epic, it'd be the heart of the story. Truth, sacrifice, memory, everything she's fought for, coming full circle. 28th, Sabo gets captured. Man, the revolutionary trio really be suffering. Sabo getting captured during the final war would be a brutal narrative blow. He's already been targeted during the Reverie, already missing, already had the world thinking he was dead. So if the government actually gets him during the final war, it'd be catastrophic. Sabo isn't just strong, he's a symbol. He's the Flame Emperor. He's Ace's brother. He's Dragon's successor. His capture would be a political earthquake. Now imagine the Marines publicly broadcasting it. Sabo is ours. Boom, panic, protests. The Revolutionary Army is enraged. Luffy, barely holding himself back. And if Imu or the Gorosei interrogate him, trying to extract ancient info or even erase his memories, we're entering real dark territory. But Sabo's no pushover. He's been tortured before. He's lost family. He's literally walked through hell and come out stronger. So maybe he doesn't break. Maybe he uses the opportunity to destroy something from within. Classic Sabo. Or maybe his capture becomes the catalyst for Dragon to go all in. No more patience, no more strategy, just pure war. Either way, if Sabo's taken, someone's dying to get him back. 29, the treasure in Mary Joie is a devil fruit of ultimate power. Oda teased it so hard. Doflamingo said there's a national treasure in Mary Joie that could shake the world if exposed. So what if that treasure is a devil fruit? But not just any fruit, the ultimate devil fruit. Maybe it's the original one. Maybe it grants god tier abilities, reality warping, immortality, time manipulation. Or maybe it's the mother fruit, the source of all devil fruits. Something Vegapunk theorized about, something even the Gorosei fear. Now imagine the government has kept it hidden, never eaten, because the risk was too high. But in the final war, with everything collapsing, they finally use it. Maybe Saturn eats it. Maybe Imu. Maybe they inject it into one of the Seraphim or a Joy Boy clone. Suddenly the battlefield changes. Now it's not about armies, it's about surviving a god. And maybe Luffy has to go full gear 5, awakening levels we haven't even seen yet to counter it. Or maybe someone else ends up eating the fruit. Someone unexpected, like Buggy. Please, God, no. Either way, this treasure becomes the final twist, the ace up the government's sleeve, and it pushes the final battle to a level we haven't even dreamed of. 30. The treasure in Mary Joie is the key to the ancient kingdom. Now let's flip theory 29 on its head. What if the treasure in Mary Joie isn't a weapon, but a relic, a key, something that unlocks the truth about the Void Century, the Ancient Kingdom, and maybe even the One Piece itself. Think about it. The world government built Mary Joie on top of something. They've been hiding that giant straw hat, guarding forbidden knowledge. What if beneath the throne there's a portal, or a monument, or a sealed city? And that treasure, it's the key. Maybe literally, maybe symbolically, maybe it's a piece of an ancient map, a code, or a device that unlocks the last story. Robin, Vegapunk, or even Luffy himself uses it. And suddenly everything changes. We see the truth, the fall of the Ancient Kingdom, the birth of the world government, Joy Boy's final message, the reason for everything. This wouldn't just end the war, it would change the world forever. No explosions, no weapons, just truth. And in a world built on lies, that might be the most dangerous treasure of all. 31. The world government unleashes a new race of genetically perfect soldiers. Alright, this is classic villain playbook, but One Piece style, which means insane. So picture this. The world government is cornered. The war is slipping from their hands. Emu is losing ground. The Marines are exhausted. What's their final trump card? They unveil a new army, not just clones or seraphim. We're talking a genetically engineered race, built in secret using Lunarian DNA, maybe bits of Kaido, maybe even some of Luffy's gear power harvested from Vegapunk's old data. These aren't humans, they're lab-born monsters with no feelings, no free will, and no limits. They don't eat, they don't sleep, they don't even think, they just obey. And they're everywhere. Imagine these perfect soldiers flooding the battlefield. Even the Seraphim back off. Zoro slashes one and it doesn't fall. Sanji kicks one into the sky and it flies back with a jet boost. Robin tries to trap one and its body adapts instantly. It's like fighting gods made in test tubes. Now here's the kicker. Maybe they're meant to be the next evolution of humanity. A replacement. The government's twisted version of peace. No pirates, no rebellions, just perfect control. Luffy sees this and goes full rage. That's not freedom, that's slavery. Cue the Straw Hats unleashing everything. This would raise the scale of the war, and it fits perfectly with the theme of individuality versus control. The Straw Hats represent chaos, dreams, imperfection. These new soldiers, cold perfection. It's the ultimate clash, and when the world sees Luffy beating them while laughing, while being himself, the message hits. Perfection isn't worth it without freedom, 32nd. A Straw Hat betrays the crew during the final war. This one is pure emotional trauma. We've spent 25 plus years believing in the unbreakable bond of the Straw Hats. But what if at the worst possible moment, one of them breaks? A betrayal in the final war would shake the fandom hard. Not because it's edgy, but because it would feel impossible. Now let's be clear, this wouldn't be a true betrayal out of evil. It'd be complicated. Maybe it's a forced deal, maybe it's memory manipulation, maybe it's someone pretending to betray to infiltrate the enemy ranks. But still, the damage would be done. Imagine Zoro turning his sword against Luffy for 1 second, or Frankie hacking the Sunny under Gorosei orders, or even Usopp cracked under fear and pressure, doing something desperate. The moment would crush us, the crew would freeze, Luffy would hesitate, the music would cut, the world would stop. But then, redemption. That Straw Hat fights their way back. They reject the control, they scream through the pain, I never stopped believing in us. And when they return to the crew, broken but loyal, the hug hits hard. This would be Oda testing the bond of the crew in the harshest way. Not to destroy it, but to show it's stronger than anything. And if it's not a real Straw Hat, but a clone or imposter, even more chaos. Either way, Betrayal Arc equals emotional roller coaster. 33rd, Emu reveals they had the Operation of Eternal Youth okay. Time to go full immortal puppet master mode. We know Law's Ope no Mi has a mythical power, the Perpetual Youth Operation. Sacrifice your life and grant someone eternal life. Now what if someone already did it and that someone was Emu? Boom. Suddenly everything clicks. Emu has ruled from the shadows for centuries. They've shaped the world in their image, and no one knows why they're still alive. Until the truth comes out, Emu used someone, maybe a powerful doctor, maybe an early user of the Ope, and became immortal. It explains the Gorosei's reverence. It explains why they hide the empty throne, and it means Emu was there during the Void Century. Imagine the moment they say it. I watched Joy Boy fall. I erased his kingdom myself. Chills. Now it's not just about freedom, it's about breaking a god, because how do you defeat someone who can't die? Cue Luffy going Ultra Gear 5, laughing even as the world collapses. You may live forever, but you're all alone. Imu's immortality becomes their curse, stuck in an endless loop of fear and control. And Luffy, the one force that refuses to bow. It's not about living forever, it's about living freely. 34. Roger's crew reunites in the final war. Now this would be legendary fan service, and so earned. Imagine the final war breaks out, the world is burning, the new generation is clashing against the government, and suddenly, you hear that iconic whistle. Rayleigh steps into battle, then Crocus, Shaki, Scopper Gabbin, the remnants of the Pirate King's crew, old, grizzled, and ready for one last storm. They don't fight to be heroes, they don't want the spotlight. They're here to protect the will of Roger, to see Joy Boy's dream fulfilled, to stand by Luffy in the final battle. Maybe they fight side by side with the Straw Hats, maybe they take on some Gorosei, or maybe they stand guard so Robin can finish reading the poneglyphs. And let's not forget, they know secrets about Laugh Tale, about the world, about Joy Boy. Their arrival could shift the entire war. Even a flashback from Buggy, pure gold. This moment wouldn't just hype fans, it'd complete a legacy. Roger couldn't finish the journey, but his crew can help the next one do it. One Piece is about inherited will, and this would be the most epic handoff ever. 35. The final war is broadcasted to the entire world. This one gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. Imagine the final war starts, and somewhere, maybe by Vegapunk's design, maybe Sabo's doing, every Denden Mushi in the world turns on, screens light up, snail phones buzz, and suddenly everyone sees it. The war, the truth, the fall of the Celestial Dragons, Luffy laughing in the face of a god, Robin reading the ancient message aloud, people in the East Blue crying, kings frozen, kids shouting, "That's my captain!" Villains stunned, the world watching history unfold in real time. It turns the final war into a global revolution. No more hiding, no more secrets. This isn't a secret rebellion, it's a damn spectacle. And when the people see Luffy win, it's not just his victory, it's theirs. This theory is the perfect climax. Transparency, legacy, unity. And Oda? Oh, he'd milk the drama like crazy. 36. Zoro opens his eye. Okay, we've been waiting years for this. Zoro's eye has been closed since the time skip. No explanation, no reveal, just mystery. And what if Oda's been saving it for this exact moment? The final war? Imagine Zoro, battered and bloodied, facing off against one of the top tier enemies. Maybe a Gorosei, maybe Mihawk, maybe a genetically enhanced marine samurai who's pushing him past his limits. His swords are chipped, his haki is burning, he's on the brink, and then he opens the eye. Boom, instant hype. And what's inside? There are tons of theories. Some say it's a scar, others say it's the Sharingan of the One Piece world. But let's go all in. Maybe it's a forbidden technique, a form of observation. Haki so intense it's dangerous. Maybe Mihawk taught him to keep it closed unless absolutely necessary. Or maybe it's connected to the Asura form, a literal demon eye, letting Zoro push into a berserker state where he transcends normal limits. Opening that eye could signal the moment Zoro fully becomes the world's strongest swordsman, no doubt, no debate. And it would be perfectly timed, right at the climax when everything's on the line. Fans would lose it, TikTok would melt, YouTube would explode, and Zoro, he wouldn't even say anything. He'd just open it and cut through fate itself. 37. Enel comes back and plays a major role in the final war. You thought he was gone. Nah, Enel's coming back with thunder and god complex energy. Last we saw him, he was chilling on the moon with robot space beings and a massive army of automata. And let's be honest, Oda did not spend all that time drawing moon lore and Skytech just for fun. Enel's return is inevitable. Now picture this. The final war is raging. The seas are in chaos. And suddenly, the skies darken. Storm clouds gather, thunder echoes across the world, and then boom! Enel descends from the heavens like Zeus on crack. The world freaks out, Marines panic, pirates don't know if he's friend or foe, he's not part of any alliance, he's just here because the earth is finally worthy of his attention. But here's the cool twist, Enel might side with Luffy. Why? Not out of friendship, but because he hates the world government even more. They called themselves gods? Pathetic. He's a rogue force of nature, attacking CP0 ships, frying clones, zapping zapping satellites, or maybe he sides with no one and just causes pure chaos. His power is still top tier. Logia, ultra fast movement, voice of all things, confirmed, and sky-based surveillance. He could be the wild card no one expected, the one factor even Emu didn't prepare for. His comeback would be electric, pun intended. 38, Blackbeard steals Emu's fruit. Alright, this one? Terrifying. We know Teach is the ultimate thief. He stole Whitebeard's fruit. He may have stolen a second devil fruit using some unknown method. And if Emu is the final villain and has some god tier fruit, then yeah, you know Blackbeard is thinking about how to take it. Now imagine this. Emu is at their peak. Maybe they're using a time-based fruit or an immortality power. The final war is reaching its climax, and just when it looks like Luffy and the others are losing, Blackbeard strikes. He sneaks in like the cockroach he is, using his darkness powers to cancel Emu's abilities. Then boom, he steals their fruit. Suddenly, Teach becomes the real final boss, powered by darkness and whatever reality bending ability Emu had. He didn't just inherit the will of D, he stole the future. Now it's Luffy versus Blackbeard one last time. Joy Boy versus the Parasite who leached off everyone's legacy, and the world barely hanging on. This would be one of the darkest twists in the story, but also one of the most fitting, because Blackbeard has always been the shadow to Luffy's light, and this would be his ultimate theft, but also his downfall. 39, the Sunny turns out to be an ancient weapon. This theory is straight up beautifully poetic. What if the Thousand Sunny, the ship that's carried the Straw Hats across every sea, is actually more than just Franky's dream machine? What if it's Pluton? Think about it. Franky had the blueprints, he burned them, yes, but maybe he memorized them. Maybe he secretly built Pluton, not knowing it was Pluton. He just wanted to build the ultimate ship, and in doing so, he fulfilled his destiny. Now imagine in the final war, the tides are turning, the Alliance is losing, and Franky hits a final switch. The Sunny transforms. Cannons emerge. The hull shifts. The ship awakens. Sea Kings react. The ocean trembles. Everyone stares in disbelief. Luffy as Franky, what the hell is this? Franky, the ship that'll carry the Pirate King and end the old world. Boom. It's not just fan service, it's earned. It turns the Straw Hats home into their final weapon, their moving legacy, and it gives Franky the spotlight he deserves. The ship that brought freedom becomes freedom's final bullet. 40, Zunisha dies. This one's gonna hurt. Zunisha, the ancient elephant that's been walking for centuries, punished for a crime we still don't fully understand. He's one of the most majestic, emotional presences in One Piece. And what if he dies in the final war? Maybe he sacrifices himself to destroy the Red Line. Maybe he's targeted by Uranus or the Lulusia weapon. Maybe Imu sees him as a symbol of the ancient kingdom and erases him. Whatever the reason, the moment Zunisha falls would shake the seas. Momonosuke would cry, the world would mourn, the Sea Kings would scream. But here's the beauty, Zunisha's death would have meaning. He walked for centuries awaiting Joy Boy's return. And in the final hour, when that destiny is fulfilled, he gives his life to help Luffy change the world. His final roar echoes across the Grand Line, a sound that breaks mountains, that opens the path, and then silence. It's tragic, but it's the kind of ending a true ancient guardian deserves. 40. Zunisha dies. This one's gonna hurt. Zunisha, the ancient elephant that's been walking for centuries, punished for a crime we still don't fully understand. He's one of the most majestic, emotional presences in One Piece. And what if he dies in the final war? Maybe he sacrifices himself to destroy the Red Line. Maybe he's targeted by Uranus or the Lulusia weapon. Maybe Imu sees him as a symbol of the ancient kingdom and erases him. Whatever the reason, the moment Zunisha falls would shake the seas. Momonosuke would cry. The world would mourn. The Sea Kings would scream. But here's the beauty. Zunisha's death would have meaning. He walked for centuries awaiting Joy Boy's return. And in the final hour, when that destiny is fulfilled, he gives his life to help Luffy change the world. His final roar echoes across the Grand Line, a sound that breaks mountains, that opens the path. And then silence. It's tragic, but it's the kind of ending a true ancient guardian deserves. 41. The arc will have a countdown. The islands are sinking due to an ancient weapon. Now this is pure cinematic tension. Imagine the final arc isn't just about war, it's a race against time. Why? Because an ancient weapon, maybe Uranus or a corrupted Pluton, has been activated and it's destabilizing the planet itself. Tectonic shifts, ocean levels rising, islands crumbling into the sea, and suddenly a massive countdown begins. Not just for dramatic effect, but because the world is literally sinking. Reverse Mountain starts cracking, the red line begins to shake, islands across the blues vanish, entire countries evacuate, Fishman Island starts surfacing, maybe as a result of the collapse. The world map begins to change in real time, and the war rages on while this is happening. This changes everything. There's no more time for strategy, it's chaos. People start asking, what's more important, fighting or surviving? The Straw Hats have to split up. Some protect civilians, others chase after the enemy. The Revolutionary Army scrambles to save as much history and life as possible. Vegapunk tries to stop the chain reaction, and in the middle of it all, Luffy still shouts, "We're gonna finish this first." This setup adds constant urgency. Every fight is under pressure, every victory comes with a cost, and when the final blow is struck, maybe it's too late. But that's where the Straw Hats shine. They don't stop because the world's ending. They stop the end itself. Apocalyptic, epic, full of heartbreak and hope. 42nd, Garling Figureland dies. Ah, St. Garling Figureland, that smug, mysterious celestial knight who looks like a darker version of Shanks. We all know Oda didn't drop his name and design for no reason. He's meant to go out with a bang. Now imagine this, Garling is sent in by Imu as the last line of elite force. Maybe he leads a squad of divine knights. Maybe he's fighting Shanks. Maybe he's the world government's chosen warrior, the face of their dying ideology, and he's terrifying, fast, ruthless. Maybe he even has the same conqueror's haki Shanks has, or something even darker. But then he falls, maybe to Shanks, maybe to Dragon, maybe even to Zoro if Oda wants to give him a truly noble kill. But the point is, Garling dies, and with him goes the illusion of the celestial superiority, because this man wasn't just a warrior, he was a symbol of divine blood, of tyranny wrapped in glory. His fall shows the world that even gods bleed. His death would be shocking, bloody, raw, but necessary. And if he is connected to Shanks by blood, that just adds 10 layers of emotional trauma to the moment. Another false god cut down in the name of freedom. 43rd, Akainu dies. Oh, this one is going to split the fandom in half, but it's gotta happen. Akainu is the embodiment of absolute justice, the man who murdered Ace, the man who never bent, never hesitated, never doubted. But in the final war, that mentality is going to break. He's been the face of marine tyranny for years, and whether you hate him or admire his intensity, his end needs to be monumental. Maybe he dies fighting Dragon, or maybe he clashes with Luffy in a one-on-one rematch where Luffy finally settles Ace's grudge. Or even crazier, Kobe defeats him. Now that would be poetic, but here's the most interesting path. Maybe Akainu dies a tragic death, not as a villain, but as a man too rigid to change. Maybe he realizes in his final moments that absolute justice led to nothing but more war. Imagine the last scene, Akainu bleeding, the navy in flames behind him. He looks at the sea and mutters, "Maybe Aokiji was right." It wouldn't be redemption, but it would be clarity, the last gasp of a dying ideology. And when he's gone, the Marines face a choice: keep following ghosts or build something new. 44. The truth about the Gorosei and Holy Knight's powers and immortality is revealed. This is the one we've all been waiting for. The Gorosei aren't just old men in robes, they're monsters. We've seen their transformed devilish forms. We've seen their fearsome aura. But what's the truth behind their powers? Why don't they age? How are they so connected to Imu? Well, here's the theory. They're not just powerful, they're immortal. Maybe through the Ope Ope fruit, maybe through a ritual, maybe they're eldritch beings bound to the throne itself. And the Holy Knights? Maybe they're not even human anymore. Imagine the reveal. Vegapunk leaks the truth live during the war. Robin deciphers it from a lost pony glyph. The world learns that the ones who ruled them were never like them at all. Immortality, body swapping, ancient curses. These guys didn't just manipulate history, they survived it. And suddenly, the war changes. You're not fighting men, you're fighting living lies. And the solution: break the curse, destroy the source. Maybe it's the empty empty throne, maybe it's Imu, maybe it's a seal under Marie Joie. Either way, when the truth comes out, the people rebel with fire in their hearts, because no one wants to be ruled by monsters pretending to be gods. 45th, Usopp becomes a god among the people, like an ultra god Usopp. And now for one of the most deserved theories of all. Usopp, our boy, the liar, the dreamer, the coward turned warrior. What if during the final war he pulls off something so massive that the people of the world genuinely start calling him a god? Maybe he saves an entire island from sinking. Maybe he blows up a Gorosei with one perfect sniper shot. Maybe he leads a revolution on the ground while the giants of Elbaf chant his name. And then it spreads. The kids in East Blue hear it. Civilians across the Grand Line scream, "God Usopp!" The people believe in him, not because he's the strongest, but because he never gave up. This wouldn't just be a gag anymore. It'd be canon legend. Usopp would cry, deny it, try to run from it, but deep down, he knows he earned it. He's not a liar anymore. He's a symbol, and when the war ends, he walks away, not just as a Straw Hat, but as a myth. 46. Vegapunk creates a machine that temporarily disables all devil fruits. Now this would be the ultimate equalizer. We know Vegapunk is a scientific genius who's been playing with devil fruit replication, memory tech, and even satellites. So what if in the final war he activates one last invention? A machine that nullifies every devil fruit on the battlefield, at least temporarily. Boom. No gears, no Logias, no awakenings, just raw skill. Imagine the chaos. Luffy falls from the sky mid-Gear 5. Kizaru loses his light powers. Law can't use Rune. Even teaches Yami Yami no Mi vanishes. And now it's just straight up hand-to-hand combat, hockey, strategy, and sheer willpower. Why would Vegapunk do this? Maybe as a way to stop the total destruction. Maybe to prevent the ancient weapons from activating. Or maybe he knows that only by resetting the board can the Straw Hats win fairly against beings like the Gorosei or Imu. This would turn the war on its head. Characters who relied on fruits their whole lives would be exposed. Others, like Zoro, Sanji, and Shanks-style fighters would rise. It levels the battlefield. It forces people to fight as they are. And it gives the final war a raw, grounded energy that One Piece hasn't had since pre-Grand Line. Oh, and imagine the moment the powers return. Gear 5, Awakening, all at once, Madness. 47, the world government releases a disease, and Chopper finds the cure. This one's personal, and perfectly Oda style. Imagine the world government, desperate and losing, goes full bio-warfare. They release a global disease. Something ancient, maybe engineered, maybe found in a sealed chamber under Marie Joie. Either way, it spreads fast, through Denden Mushi, air, even water. People collapse, fighters lose their strength, civilians die. It's terrifying. And in the middle of it all, Chopper steps forward. The smallest Straw Hat, the softest, but also the Doctor of Dreams. The one who promised to cure any disease. He isolates it, he studies it, he cries while people suffer, but he doesn't stop. And finally, with Robin's help and Vegapunk's backup, he creates the cure, distributes it, saves lives, turns the tide. He doesn't punch a villain, he doesn't destroy a weapon, but he saves the world. And in the end, people don't call him a pet or a reindeer or a monster. They call him Dr. Chopper with full respect. 48. Robin reveals the truth to the world in a global broadcast. Now this one's gonna hit deep. Robin has been carrying the burden of history since she was a child. She's been hunted, tortured, chased, just because she can read the poneglyphs. And in the final war, she finally gets her moment. Imagine her standing before a Denden Mushi camera, injured, exhausted, and behind her the truth, the story of the Void Century, of Joy Boy, of the Ancient Kingdom, of the lies the world government built its power on. And she speaks, calm, steady, tears in her eyes. As the world listens, former enemies freeze, civilians stop running, the Marines question their orders, the Celestial Dragons start to panic, and Luffy, he watches her with pride, because this is her fight, her voice. This wouldn't be a flashy battle scene, it would be the emotional climax, the moment the truth wins, and Robin, the girl who once said she had no place in the world, becomes the voice that changes it. Goosebumps. 49th, Buggy plays a key role in the final war by pure luck, and now the final theory. And it's hilarious and somehow totally believable. Buggy D. Clown. He stumbles into the final war screaming, running, accidentally commanding fleets, somehow avoiding death again and again. He trips, dodges an admiral's attack, he sneezes, blows up a CP-0 ship, he shouts, "I surrender!" and the Marines retreat. And through all this, people start believing in him. Buggy the Wise, Buggy the Unkillable, Buggy the King, and maybe, just maybe, he does something that actually matters. Maybe he saves Luffy at the last second, maybe he gives the final blow to a weakened Emu by complete accident, or maybe he just survives it all and becomes the face of the new pirate era. Buggy, the clown god of chaos. And you know what? We'd love it, because in the end, One Piece is about dreams, madness, and heart, and no one fumbles through those better than Buggy. And finally, number 50. This last theory is up to you. Leave it for me in the comments. Tell me, what theory do you have about the final war that hasn't been mentioned in this video? I'll be reading all of them and seeing which one is the best or the most original. And that's it for the 50 theories about the final war in One Piece. Which one was your favorite, or which one do you think is definitely going to happen? Let me know in the comments. And remember, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to help me reach 5,000 subscribers and make my dream come true. Big hug, and I'll see you in the next video.